Recording in progress.
Good morning, honorable members. The time is 8 o'clock, as we agreed last week that because of the starting of the plenary, we shall start at 8 o'clock. You are all most welcome. We will start by dealing with the housekeeping matters. Miss Valerie, I only have noticed the apology of Honorable Noluchungu. Are there any other apologies that I might have omitted?
Chair, Ms. Bashlati said that Mr. Tole is going to attend another meeting, but we have asked him to attend this one because it starts earlier than the one that starts later. So we will wait for his connection. Right now, there's only 4 members on the platform.
Let me just see. It's myself. No, I guess we can go through the report. Nell can take us through the report. And then at the time of the end of her presentation, then we'll check whether do we correct or not. And then we'll devise a way forward. How do we adopt or accept the legacy report?
Chair, may I just say something, Chair? We have Mrs. Ramadwa and Mr. Sitole now online, so there are 6 members.
So we're good to go. Thank you so much.
You're good to go.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Honorable members, once more, you are most welcome, and thank you very much for logging in. We have got only 2 items, which is the legacy report ago, and last week also we're urged to go through them and submit any additions or modification that we deem necessary in our report, because it is our reflection in terms of the work that we have been doing since 2019 to date, which is the end of the term of the 6th Parliament. With that, honorable members, I have already registered the apology of Honorable Noluchungu. Then I will request Advocate Nell to take us through the essence, because we have been having this report for quite some time, and the areas that we think that members must pay attention. But the layout of the report we're aware of. We can talk to it, but it shouldn't take more than an hour. I will suggest that by 9 o'clock we should then have completed even the adoption of the minutes, so that it can allow members then to join the sitting. Over to you, Advocate Nell. And I guess everybody agrees with that approach. Let me just check the action of the members. I guess it's there. Thank you
Agreed,
so much.
Chair.
Thank you,
Agreed,
thank you so kindly, honorable members, Kumalo and Ramadwa. Advocate Nell, over to you, my dear.
Morning, Chairperson and members. I hope the screen is suitably large. I hope that members can hear me.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you, Chair. Chair and members would have seen the report hasn't changed drastically since we did the last draft presentation, but we did update those additional points that were raised during the meetings, as well as update our statistics and the processing of the legislation. So Chair and members would have seen the key highlights remain the same as our introduction and the impact that COVID had on the work of the committee. The focus areas were taken from our strategic plan that we added in here for members, just there highlighted after we did the most recent quarterly expenditure. We did a total of 12 quarterly expenditure reports. Issues that are still continuing from even the fourth Parliament, Chair and members would have seen here, is the scholar transport policy issue, the concerns regarding the PTOG, which is the bus subsidization contracts, and then the Lesotho South Africa cross-border challenges with CBRTA. There has been improvement on that, but it is still not entirely resolved. Then some issues from the fifth Parliament that still remained with this committee. We have seen here there's some progress on the turnaround strategy in the BRRR reports, our quarterly reports that we do in any case, the continued monitoring of the AGSA reports, but here members would have seen this is now also from our BRRR and our supplement report, is the concerns regarding late tabling of annual reports and how it affects the work of the committee. That was an aspect in the fifth Parliament, but also in the sixth Parliament, Chair. Conducting of regular oversight visits for this committee, it was impacted by COVID restrictions. Then the legislation affecting the finances of the department's entities, that one of these is, for example, the Road Accident Fund and the STAR, or Transport Economic Regulator. But that is some aspects that we have worked on during the year, but the Road Accident Fund issue remains. Then we still have finalization of policy issues, again, the scholar transport issue and the Gauteng Freeway Improvement or GFIP project. So we just reiterate those points that the scholar transport has been long outstanding or a long-standing matter. Then we also have some concerns. It's the fifth Parliament as well as the sixth Parliament had noted that there was slow implementation of the modernization project for PRASA. And there were some concerns regarding the IPTNs and as well as the road maintenance grant and how that is applied. We did do a 5-year strategy in the sixth Parliament that was not there within the fifth Parliament. And then, Chair, again, just highlighting scholar transport in Lesotho because it was an issue within the fifth Parliament as well as the sixth Parliament, and it will carry over to the seventh Parliament. Monitoring of grants that are transferred, that remained a concern and will continue to be a concern. IPTNs, BRRR, and the cities that get suspended from the IPTN program. And there needs to be continued oversight on how they return. Then the presidential review of entities was a matter that came in, and that will have to continue to be considered within the seventh Parliament. This one specifically for us is the Transport Economic Regulator legislation, because that will impact when it comes into a phased-in operation and how it absorbs the entities going forward. Then the concerns about legislation directly impacting the finances of the entities, that matters here again. And then we just note some of the legislation that was outstanding from the sixth Parliament or that were pending in the sixth Parliament by the department but weren't tabled. So we do know the Civil Aviation Bill we processed, the ERT Bill we processed, which is linked to STAP. And we indicate which ones were finalized further down. Chair, noting then in the 5th Parliament, these were the targets that the department set itself for the 6th Parliament term in terms of legislation, which was the Merchant Shipping Bill and the Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill. Those target dates were 2019, 2020. We know that the Merchant Shipping Bill was only sent to us late last year, so that one was quite delayed. The Green Transport Strategy, not fully implemented yet. The monitoring of the implementation of NatMap, National Rail Act, we don't have that new one yet, but we do have the Railway Safety Regulation one, and that's this one here. They targeted it for implementation by 2020, 2021, but the NCOP is still busy with that process. So we do indicate here the progress that was made by the committee on those bills. Then, in addition to the above, the department also set those following ones that are in there. So we just list those ones, and that will have to continue to be monitored in the next cycle, depending on whether or not the department brings them back in their strategic plan. Just a note, which we've done, is to include the minute consideration in each of the agendas and regular management committee meetings. This was impacted by COVID, as well as some of the parliamentary programs moving our meetings around. And then also full and proper use of all committee meeting days, including Fridays. It would be advisable to use the Fridays where possible for the 7th Parliament, as it assists in the volume of the work. The key areas for future work. So we do see here, again, scholar transport, cross-border challenges, that falls under CBRTA, the grant transfers, the IPTNs, review of the entities, and the implementation then of the economic regulator, that legislation, and that the committee should continue to request the department to submit their legislative program. We've requested that for 2 sessions now, and we don't get the list from the department other than pulling it from their strat plan. If we get their list earlier, it helps us to plan better and to advise them better on their target dates for processing of the legislation. Then here, Chair, highlighted is the concerns raised about the clashes with the SCOPA meetings. Just need to correct this spelling error here. So we do indicate the concerns there from members, and it is advised that during the 7th Parliament, the scheduling of SCOPA meetings, as well as the transport portfolio meetings, should not fall on the same day, as it would assist greatly so that we make sure that we get the full attention of the department and their senior staff, as well as their entities. Then limited opportunities to travel or attend transport-specific training. So that came out of our UITP report that we've adopted since we considered the last legacy report. So we do have that in there, as well as the consideration that members mentioned for a specific allocation of a budget to each committee that will allow us to plan better and know exactly that we will have money to do trips and how many trips can be planned, as well as the complement of the delegation, as well as the support staff. So hopefully that captures members' concerns correctly. Then just an update regarding the legislation and which items of legislation will most likely be carried over or would have to be revived, and that is going to be the ERT bill. It will be most likely revived from where the NCOP report is adopted. Transport Appeal Tribunal, Railway Safety Bill, Marine Pollution Amendment Bill, Marine Oil Pollution Bill, and then the Merchant Shipping Bill will have to be considered from anew. Then I just added from the last engagement with the Road Accident Fund is just a note that the Road Accident Fund through the Minister have tabled an amendment bill, or they are working on an amendment bill, and there's an imminent or possible tabling of that bill. So that is something for the 7th Parliament just to keep their eyes on in terms of that process. Chair, then also just indicating here again those target dates that the department had set at the start of the 6th Parliament, and they are along past due those dates. So that's just a note for the 7th Parliament to keep an eye on those if they do return. Key challenges, Chair and members. COVID was our principal challenge and how it affected our programming. Then also unexpected or unplanned requests for assistance from stakeholders. Continued late tabling of legislation, where we always ask the department to table within the first 3 years of the Parliament sitting. And then not being able to do all the oversight visits that we had planned for the BRT, especially for the BRT. Then the study tours that we had planned that we were unable to attend, other than the UITP training session. And then just bringing back that concern regarding the delegation, size of the delegation, as well as the assistance from the staff. And then the pooled budget, that's a concern at the moment, that a specific budget is advised going forward. Chair, members will see these recommendations in 5.1 are again further down below in the document. It's just because of how the reporting template for the legacy report is. So we do have scholar transport, just indicating that it's an issue since the 4th Parliament, PTOGs, and the cross-border Lesotho, South Africa cross-border challenges. Then again, the 5th Parliament issues is our progress in the BRRR reports and reporting on the quarterly reports. The AG, how the department and the entities work with the AG to resolve the audit issues, to address all the recommendations raised in the BRRR reports, conducting regular oversight visits if possible, the outstanding policy issues regarding scholar transport and GFIP that need to be finalized. These have been carried over since the 4th Parliament. Monitoring of the PROSA modernization project and IPTNs as well as PRMG needs to continue. Having a strategic plan and APP is very important also for the 7th Parliament. Then the grants that are transferred, the IPTNs where some of the cities have been suspended, and the monitoring of how they get re-onboarded. That's the correct phrasing there. The review of entities for the presidential review, and then how our transport economic regulator, once it's implemented, will affect that. Outstanding policy and legislation. They need to submit their legislative program and the bills that will have to be revised. So Chair will see a lot of this information has already been presented. We just bring it into our recommendations. So I'm just going to go a bit faster here. Chair, introduction. The department, this is just a general explanation of what the department does and what their functions are. We see this in all of our reports, how the department is set up in their 7 programs. We list all our entities and their main roles. So just going over that. The functions of the committee, method of work that the committee has used. That's also the same as it was presented last in our draft report. And then the purpose of this report. And then we get to the key statistics. So Chair and members will see here the way we've split this up is, although the template has financial years indicated, we are indicating the meetings we did for the specific year, Chair. This just helps us because our tracking document is set up from the 1st of January to the end of December, and because that's also how Parliament does their programming. So Parliament's program is from January to the end of December. So in terms of how we report for our meetings, we do that per the year. And in total, Chair, it comes to 164 meetings that the committee has had. It's been quite busy. We also then include our subcommittee meetings, our quarterly expenditure reports, and then for the legislation, we indicated it. I added the whole list of the legislation under the first table so that we make sure they are all covered. There were 5 pieces that were revived legislation, and we had 1 piece that was resubmitted. And then we had all the other ones that were tabled in the specific years. So in total, Chair, there were 12 bills 7 were tabled new, 5 were revived, and then 1 was resubmitted. So that's our statistics regarding the legislation. Then the oversight trips. This is a total of 5 study tours. We didn't do study tours, but we did do the training, the international training. So because it was a training item, it's not listed as a study tour. We considered 3 international agreements. We just indicate them here on their short names, which was the Bunker Convention, the Chicago Convention, and the Luxembourg one, which was the most recent. Statutory appointments, we did not have any during this term, but going forward there will be for the 7th Parliament, and we do note this below. Interventions considered, we added the public protectors item here. That was on the panel vans, on the use of panel vans as taxis. So it was 1 intervention. Even though it's listed over 2 years, it's just 1 item. And we had 1 petition, which was formally submitted, Chair. This is why we indicated as only 1, and that's the Okatlamba one from KZN. Our stakeholders, we just list our stakeholders. That was the same as was presented in the draft report. Briefings and public hearings. So, Chair, this is just a bit of a narrative to indicate all the meetings and the different issues that were highlighted, the change in chairpersonship, the COVID impact, not just on our work, but the work of the entities, the concerns, specific concerns for some of the entities. So here we bring in RAF and the fact that the road accident benefit scheme legislation was not supported. Some concerns about the appointments of CEOs, that there's still a need to finalize GFIP, and that SANRAL has increased its road network. So that's all still the same since the draft legacy report. The concerns around PRASA, we do have in there, and the monitoring of the turnaround strategy and the modernization strategy. Then in total, we've considered 5 budget vote reports, the strat plans and APPs over the years as well. And then we highlight some of the key issues and concerns from those reports, but that has not changed since the draft report. Then, Chair, we indicate that we've done 12 quarterly reports to date, and we just list them. And that there were some issues that may be outstanding, that will have to be reported on those ones. And that in general, the 4th quarterly reports are normally processed as part of the BRRR. Then we get the entities that we've had issues with. This is our BRRRs. We did 5 BRRR reports. And then we also had 1 supplementary report, and we indicate that it was specifically to consider those 4 late tabled entities. Then another updated aspect here, Chair, is just that there will be a need for the 7th Parliament to have the progress report meeting with the AGSA as soon as they are ready to go, just to see how far the entities are. We normally do an update report after the BRRR report from the AGSA. Then we had just indicate the conventions that were considered and how some of those conventions feed into legislation, come before the committee. Concerns regarding the filling of vacancies in senior management and boards. Then just this note for the 7th Parliament regarding the Civil Aviation Amendment Act and the role that the committee will have to play there for the statutory appointments, as well as the Economic Regulation of Transport Bill once it's promulgated. Then the bills that were considered. So we just list our bills that were considered, and then we do a table to indicate the progress or where those bills are at the moment. Then again here, just bringing the road accident benefit scheme ATNS and AXA and civil aviation, which was the revived ones, and that some of the bills above will have to probably be considered in the 7th Parliament. The petition, we highlight the work that was done there by the petition and some progress that has been made since then. But then also we do indicate later on that there was some feedback from the community there that they need further progress on that matter. The Moloto Corridor Development Project and the IPTN projects is also in our legacy report. Then we have the IPTNs and the cities, those cities that were removed and will be brought back. And then again, the scope of matter we also bring in here, which was already indicated above. Then the legislation is just a bit of a broader explanation on the objectives of each of these pieces of legislation. Then we indicate the challenges when it comes to working with the legislation, that there's sometimes a late tabling or it's tabled very late within the term, and then it would have to be revived. One of those is the merchant shipping bill. Then we also see some delays in the processing of the bills. Members would have seen some of our bills took quite a bit of time, 2 to 3 years in terms of finalizing it, but that's based on all the other reports that the committee has to do within specific timeframes, like the BRRR and the budget reports, those then impacting the legislation and the processing of the legislation. Then issues for follow-up. Again, here is the bills that are before the NCOP and how they will most likely be revived. Merchant shipping bill will be a new one. Railway safety bill will be most likely revived. The planning for these bills, the phased-in approach of the Transport Economic Regulator once it gets brought in, and the statutory appointment issues. Oversight trips, we just indicate those trips that were done during the term, and we pulled out the recommendations from the reports and we added it in here. Just keep going down here. As members have seen this. Our challenges here for the oversight trips. The international oversight visits that we planned, for example, to Brazil and France weren't possible due to budget constraints and program challenges. Follow-ups for oversight trips, in many instances, members would have liked to do follow-ups and go back to certain areas which we couldn't program in. Sometimes when we program visits, members have other commitments, especially this year where we had quite a few of the trips scheduled over weekends, and then COVID also impacted a lot of the oversight visits in 2020. Then in terms of content challenges for these trips, we don't always get regular feedback on the recommendations from the department or the entities, and then also as we experienced during the Okatlamba one, we don't get the full support from municipal officials or officials from the provincial departments to come to the meetings, which was one of the issues that was also pointed out in that report. Then in terms of going forward or proposals for the 7th Parliament, when we do schedule the oversight trips, to schedule follow-up meetings to get feedback from the department or the entities. When it comes to our PRASA modernization, the IPTNs, the PRMG and Moloto corridor, we should see quite a few implementable phases of those reports during the 7th Parliament, and that needs to be monitored. And then here just indicating that we have received some correspondence from our petition, indicating that some of the roads other than the R74 have further deteriorated, and the progress on the R74 was noted since those sections have been sent over or transferred to SANRAL. In terms of study tours, we do indicate here that it wasn't study tours, but it was a tender and contracting trip that was undertaken by the committee. And then again, bringing the concerns over that trip out there. International agreements, we just indicate those conventions that we've worked on. The challenges, we did not really have any challenges in working with these. But when we look at issues for follow-up, it's just that those agreements often come into legislation that gets brought before the committee, and then indicating also here that we need the 7th Parliament will have to pay attention to the Marine Pollution Prevention Amendment 1 and the Marine